This is the White Coat Investor Podcast, Milestones to Millionaire, celebrating stories of success along the journey to financial freedom. Here is your host, Dr. Jim Dolly.
This is Milestones to Millionaire podcast number 43. Doc dumps whole life policy and becomes a millionaire. This podcast is sponsored by Bob Baiani at drdisabilityquotes.com. He's an independent provider of disability insurance planning solutions to the medical community in every state and a longtime White Coat Investor sponsor. He specializes in working with residents and fellows early in their careers to set up sound financial and insurance strategies. If you need to review your disability insurance coverage or to get this critical insurance in place, contact Bob at drdisabilityquotes.com today by emailing info@drdisabilityquotes.com or by simply calling 973-771-9100. All right, we got a great episode for you today. This is actually one of our WCI columnists, and it's a pretty interesting story because he was not doing so well for quite a number of years as an attending physician, and then became financially literate, and everything changed. And I think you're going to enjoy hearing about how he did that, as well as what he did with a whole life insurance policy that he realized he never should have bought. Let's get him on the line here. All right. So my guest today on Milestone to Millionaires podcast, or Milestones to Millionaire podcast, I guess it is Dr. Rikki, neurologist, also a WCI columnist. Welcome to the podcast.
Jim, thank you so much. It's a huge honor. Thank you for all that you do for us and all the other high-income professionals.
Well, this is going to be an interesting podcast because we're going to celebrate with you your newfound status, and also talk a little bit about one of the kind of unique things you did on your way there. But let's start with just the basics. What's your profession and how far are you out of school?
Yeah, so like you said, neurologist, and I'm based out of New Jersey. In fact, I spent my entire life in New Jersey, born, raised, college, med school. Heck, even my intern year was in New Jersey. I left the state briefly to go to do training in neurology in New York City. I could actually still see New Jersey from my apartment in New York City. And then now I am back in New Jersey. So I really got to get out of this. So I guess also this might be a lesson that you can still build wealth in a place that doesn't do geographic arbitrage. And so I'm in private practice now. Was fully private practice, but recently bought out a few years ago by our local hospital system, in New Jersey. I'm happily married to an anesthesiologist. That always helps to build my net worth, as we'll go over later, or our net worth. And I have two lovely children, even though my son drives me nuts. Jackson is 6 years old, Mia is 4.
So both of you come out of training at the same time?
Almost. So she still had a year of fellowship when I became an attending physician.
Okay, and that was what
we were still. Oh, what year? That was 2012 when I started my attendinghood.
So about 9 years.
We had gone to med school in New Jersey. Oh yes, about 9 years out. Yes, and like I said, we went to med school in New Jersey, and we went to state school. But we actually met in college. It's kind of nerdy in a summer neuroscience program back in undergrad.
That is nerdy. One of you stuck with it. The other one went into anesthesia. I'm not going to make any comments on which one was made the smarter move. But what's your approximate net worth at this point?
It fluctuates a lot when you have a lot invested, but it's actually 2 million now. And a lot of that we'll go over. But it's kind of funny when it's your investments are pretty high. It fluctuates a lot with the stock market, especially also a lot of my net worth is the house. It's sort of and housing's gone haywire. So I can't say it's really a lot of hard work, just market forces,
Yeah, for sure. Once you get to a certain level, the market starts making more of a difference than your actual savings does, doesn't it?
It does.
But give us the basic division. How much of that's home equity? How much is stocks? How much is other stuff?
So the home equity is about 1.5 mil, and there's a $900K mortgage on that, and that significantly went up over the past because of the COVID pandemic, couple of years. And the rest actually is in just simple low-cost index funds. We have maxed out our retirement accounts ever since we started attending Hood. So my wife right now has 270K about in her 401k. I have 140K in my 403b at work. I also have a solo 401k at 330K. We started doing the backdoor Roth a couple years ago. So there's a 30K piece on that, so 60K total. And also, my wife has a 457 non-governmental, which about 32K in that, and then the rest is 750K in taxable. So a significant amount of our investments are in a taxable account.
And your range of income throughout your career?
So when I started, I was at 200K, and my wife was a fellow still at the time, so she was hovering around 70K. So it started at 270. Then when she became an attending, we were making about 200K a piece, so 400K. But now, because with our financial plan and our financial literacy, we not only played defense, but we played a lot of offense too, especially my wife. So now together we're combined 900K of income, and that's not including the side gig income that I do.
Yeah, amazing how much easier it is to build wealth at 900,000 than it is on a resident income, isn't it?
Especially, yeah, when you're living in New Jersey,
Yeah,
that high income makes up for the crazy taxes.
for sure. So besides the high income, what were your secrets to success?
Well, so I think that the definitely the mindset of you cannot be, first of all, a good doctor if you're worried about finances, and that having that mindset is really what drove the fire for me to, well, not fire like retired early fire, but really to start getting financially literate. And it was born out of some bad instances. And I wrote a guest blog post about it. But it had seemed like, oh, me and the wife, we're going to be both doctors. Oh my God, we don't have to worry about money. We'll make tons. We don't have to worry about our debt. We could buy whole life insurance. I could just have my high school buddy as a he's trustworthy, right? We don't have to worry about it. He'll handle it. And so that led to, after 7 years of the my financial advisor buddy, quote unquote, helping us out. Seven years into my attendinghood, I was in $31,000 of credit card debt. I actually should say R, because I dragged my wife along with it, so, and we were trying to keep up with this whole life insurance premiums. Our debt was not paid off at all. In fact, we had hardly put a dent in it. And yeah, then that's when I had a really bad instance where I was rushing through patients trying to make up income to pay for these whole life insurance premiums. And one of the patients' sister, she was part of the Engwood system. I'm so ashamed that she was part of the Engwood Hospital family. Wrote a scathing email because this was his brother had a brain tumor. And I felt terrible rushing through this visit, you know, when there's such a terrible diagnosis. And this scathing email came out where she's like, oh, you rushed through our visit. My brother has this terrible diagnosis. We're in the same hospital system. Why did you even become a doctor in the first place? And I really looked deep down at myself and like, oh my God, I went to become a doctor because my brother has cerebral palsy. I really wanted to help people like my brother and their families too. And here I found myself rushing through this visit because I was trying to keep up with these whole life insurance premiums, and I was falling behind in $31,000 in credit card debt. And what am I supposed to say? Like, as I'm emailing her, I apologize, but I can't say that. I can't say like, I mean, I can't say it out loud. We'll just call this insurance company Lord Voldemort. But I can't say because like, one of Lord Voldemort's Death Eaters freaking sold me a whole life insurance policy. And now I'm trying to rush through your visit as well as all my other patient visits to keep up with the premiums, right? Like, I can't write that. And so I told my wife this. And that's when my wife actually got your book. And when I read it, I knew it was a way for me to, get back to, being a good doctor. But also, our relationship with my wife had been totally strained because we were in credit card debt. And so that also led me to the thought that, hey, financial literacy also brings you to be a good husband, and also my kids too. I was working harder to pay the whole life insurance premiums, taking away time from my kids. So I was getting to be a bad father. So keeping that thought in mind, that financial literacy is the key to being a better doctor, to being the doctor I want to be, to being a better husband because we're not having financial fights anymore, and then being a better father. It was totally crazy how I was blindsided. I had, I guess all of us do, obsessed about being a good doc, and I didn't know finances would be my kryptonite.
Yeah. I mean, preach it, right? Becoming financially literate certainly makes you a better physician, partner, parent, et cetera. I've been preaching that for years. But what's impressive about your story is you guys hadn't built very much wealth a couple of years ago, right? I mean, you had a good
No.
income, and here you are with a two physician income, $31,000 in credit card debt,
Mhm.
and putting money into stuff maybe you shouldn't have been doing. And
Yep.
yet you managed to turn it around in the last couple of years,
Mhm.
have really seen your net worth skyrocket, and you're far more peace in your family and in your finances, and you're well on the road to fire at this point. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
congratulations to you on that. That's something to celebrate for sure. Now,
Oh,
let's spend
thanks, bud.
just a minute talking about that whole life policy. You did
Mhm.
something a little bit different with it when you
Mhm.
decided you didn't want to have it anymore. Tell us what you did.
So that goes to the 1035 exchange. So at the end of 7 years, when I became financial literate, read your book, and then went on the blogs to see, hey, what do I do with this policy? Turns out $50,000 underwater, 25K on my wife, 25K on me. For we had two whole life insurance policies, and so, but it goes on ad nauseum on your blog post. But also, there's an entire um, forum that will go over how to do the 1035 exchange, make lemonade out of lemons. So basically, the 1035 exchange, that 50K, there was a way to actually make that back and have that grow back up without being taxed. So at least, hey, the we can make it back. And the way that you do that with the 1035 exchange, and you really had gone over this over, you had a blog post about it. Jim, you have a blog post about everything, but anyway, and so, and it looked like, hey, this is the steps of how you do it. And these are the few companies that you can use that offer a low cost variable annuity. So something that seemed so complicated, it was something that you made it very easy. And then also the guys in the forums of the community was hugely helpful. I have to say to, I hope they're listening. I think it was Noraz123 and then TJ. I think I mentioned TJ in my guest blog post that they were hugely helpful. They had done 1035 exchanges as well. I just really copied what they did. They had also done the analysis of like which one is the cheapest low cost variable annuity to do. This was something a doctor could do, and really, like, it was very easy. Being a neurologist is much harder. Being a father is definitely much harder. Because and so it was something where now, after I did the 1035 exchange in 2019, last year in December, one of those whole life insurance policies, the one of my wife, grew up to cost basis. So I made up $25,000 tax free, surrendered the variable annuity, and then also mine a couple months later grew up to cost basis. So it was great. So made up $50,000 of loss, but at least it wasn't taxed. So Uncle Sam was sharing in the pain there. I always wondered, maybe we should mention to Uncle Sam, hey, you should get rid of and make whole life insurance illegal. Look what happens. You're sharing the pain of the loss here. Like, can we make this stuff illegal? But whole life insurance unfortunately is still legal, but there is a way to sort of make up your loss and not have that be taxed. So and
Awesome.
also it was sort of a great like sign. So when it grew up to cost basis, man, me and my wife, we went out, she's like, oh, what's the occasion? It's like, oh, your whole life policy grew up to cost basis. And my wife's like, what? The 1035 exchange. I was like, she's like, oh, that was the thing you were talking about.
Yeah.
But it was also a sort of sign that, yes, sort of the learning, like reading your book, reading the blogs, it was almost like I've washed my hands totally of that mistake of the whole life insurance. It's almost like I have arrived, so
Awesome.
type of thing. Yeah.
Well, we're short on time. What other tips do you have to people who maybe are where you were a couple of years ago? They've
Mhm,
been out of school for a while and they're not building any wealth. Maybe they still have some credit card debt. They've got some student loans still. Maybe they got a whole life policy that
mhm,
they're starting to wonder about.
mhm.
What advice do you have for them?
I just had to repeat that when you learn financial literacy, it is not taking away from you becoming a good doc. In fact, it is reinforcing you in becoming a good doctor. I think a lot of the docs, they ignore finances like I did because, I'd rather read my neurology textbook because, that's going to help my patients. Forget the finances thing because it doesn't make me a better doctor. It's not going to help my patients. And I'm here to tell you, well, it does help your patients because I've been there. Like when you ignore finances, you're going to rush through your patients and have that hanging over your head. And next thing you know, like you're giving terrible care. I'm so ashamed that I was a bad doctor. I wasn't the best doctor I could be. And it was finances. So keep that in mind, and that will reinforce to have you become a better doctor. But also, it reinforces that you're a better husband, father. And also, I have to give a shout out to one of the guys in the community. He's actually trolls the forums like I do. Unfortunately, his wife has metastatic cancer. He's in the hospital right now. I have to support him, give him a shout out. This is also an example of because he is financially literate, he's able to take time off of work. He's a busy anesthesiologist in order to support, his wife who's dying in the hospital. If he wasn't financially literate, he might have to still be like on call and working and not be at his wife's side. So, so that brings another point. Keep these stories in mind. Like it's not just you're a bad doctor or husband, father, or whatever, and you just take Rikki's word for it. Keep these stories in mind. There is real stories behind it. That'll put an emotional attachment, and that will light the fire for you to dig into maximizing retirement accounts, doing the backdoor Roth. You're doing that stuff to be a better doctor, better husband, better father, just being better overall.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. And congratulations to you, not only on becoming a multimillionaire, but also, probably more importantly, and not only, getting rid of a whole life policy, which is not an insignificant accomplishment, but mostly just becoming financially literate and being able to put money in its proper place in your life and allowing it to be a tool in your life. So, congratulations to you. Thank you for
Mm-hmm.
coming on the podcast.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for the opportunity to talk. So, love all that you do, man.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that interview as much as I did. A lot of takeaways there, right? The benefits of financial literacy. He sold them pretty well, I think. And I don't think I need to say anything else about that as far as how it affects the rest of your professional and personal life. If you need more information about a 1035 exchange, that's basically a way to get rid of a whole life insurance policy while preserving your loss. And then you can basically take the gains in the same amount of that loss tax-free by exchanging into a variable annuity. So let's say you put $200,000 into a whole life insurance policy and find out that it's worth $100,000 after a few years. Well, you've got a $100,000 loss there. So if you exchange your $100,000 value into a variable annuity, then you basically get all the growth between $100,000 and $200,000 tax-free. And once it gets to $200,000, you can cancel the variable annuity, and you're back to your $200,000. It's not exactly awesome, but it beats having to pay taxes on $100,000 worth of gains anyway. Hope that's clear. If not, there's a blog post on it. You can look it up. If you simply Google, I think it used to be called "How to Dump Your Whole Life Policy," but I think we renamed it. Let me see what the new name is. How to cancel your whole life insurance policy. All right, that's apparently a more Googleable term, and my team helps me to use those more frequently, it turns out. At any rate, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you want to be on the Milestones to Millionaire podcast, you can apply whitecoatinvestor.com/milestones. We'd love to celebrate with you your financial accomplishments and use them to inspire someone else to do the same. This podcast was sponsored by Bob Bayani at drdisabilityquotes.com. He's been a longtime sponsor of the White Coat Investor. One listener sent us this review. Bob and his team were organized, patient, unerringly professional, and honest. I was completely disarmed by his time and care. I'm indebted to Bob's advocacy on my behalf and on behalf of other physicians, and to you for recommending him. Contact Bob at drdisabilityquotes.com by emailing info at drdisabilityquotes.com or by calling 973-771-9100 to get your disability insurance in place today. See you next time on the Milestones to Millionaire podcast.
My dad, your host, Dr. Dolly, is a practicing emergency physician, blogger, author, and podcaster. He is not a licensed accountant, attorney, or financial advisor, so this podcast is for your entertainment and information only and should not be considered official, personalized financial advice.